Scorsese delivers another epic cinematic trial with Killers of the Flower Moon, starring the ever-delightful De Niro and DiCaprio, who are joined by the outstanding Lily Gladstone, in presenting a tale of murder and betrayal. Sitting at a hefty 3 hours and a half, this film is not for the weak, but the subject matter makes it very moving and worthwhile. But before I get further into it, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and switching on notifications, as it really helps us out. Based on the book of the same name, Killers of the Flower Moon recounts the series of murders that happened in 1920s Oklahoma to the Osage people by white settlers who were jealous of their newfound oil money. I knew of the atrocities committed to Native Americans, but I had never heard of this intriguing and horrible case study, where the typical outright massacres are replaced with insidious plotting which manipulates love and family to the service of wealth. Let me address the elephant in the room first. The runtime. In typical Scorsese fashion, Killers is very long, and from what I gather, the time flew past quickly for some people and slowly for others. Personally, I was surprised to find that 90 minutes had already passed when I first felt like checking my watch, but I did end up watching it in 2 sittings, which helped me pick up on details I think I would have missed if I had forced myself to keep going. For me, the subject matter justified the runtime because I found the Osage history fascinating, and it felt right to have Hale weave his web around the community slowly rather than compressing time so much that his duplicity seems too obvious and his victims too oblivious. Speaking of Hale, De Niro does an excellent job with the character that is well within his wheelhouse of smart and sneaky gangster types. I also think it's nice to see DiCaprio not playing a smartass, but rather the fool and coward of the story. He manages to portray that not a thought behind those eyes look, accompanied by the defensiveness required by his hormonal composition. This contrasted with Lily Gladstone's portrayal of Molly, a character that spends much of the film sickly, sad, or otherwise inactive, but there was always more going on in her mind, always this incredible depth to her expression. It felt like each word she said was carefully chosen, and as many people have noted, she steals every scene she's in, regardless of whether she's the focus of it. Critic Mark Kermode makes an interesting point about long runtimes such as this one being well suited for a streaming setting, whilst watching it in a theatre was a trying task. It's not impossible, especially given the talent on and behind the camera, but there were definitely moments where the timeline felt drawn out unnecessarily. In particular, a lot of time was spent finding the people to do the various crimes, most of which ended up being killed or captured themselves. Frankly, I don't think they deserved the screen time when this story is not about them. When Ernest employs someone to do Hale's bidding and that guy messes up, we didn't need to see the entire process, just really the consequences. Equally, though the trial was interesting and included the moment in which Ernest switches sides, much of the proceedings could have been explained in the final theatrical performance. It's not that any of these scenes weren't well done, but they didn't feel like they served the film's main purpose. The manipulation within the family structure and the fox hiding amongst the sheep story is what I came to see, alongside learning more about the Osage people. But once the killers were found, much of the intrigue was lost. On the other hand, the time spent with these supporting characters adds depth to the overall picture, in a way that, in my opinion, better suits a TV series. I think a lot of Scorsese's work would do well as a series, as he wouldn't have to sacrifice anything, but that's neither here nor there. In terms of the technical aspects of the film, Schoonmaker's editing is seamless as usual, and no small feat considering the amount of time she had to keep the audience engaged. Though I have pointed out some scenes to cut, I was never bored or distracted. I'm no Schoonmaker, but I have worked as a video editor before, not only editing stuff like these reviews, but also a handful of short films, where it becomes evident how powerful the editor is in adding or removing pauses to a character's conversation, which really affects the portrayal of that character. With that in mind, I think Ernest's naivety could have been ruined by a quick edit, making him seem smarter than he should be, but Schoonmaker has a great grasp on the appropriate thinking time for each type of character, as is also evident in her previous work. In fact, I would be curious to compare, for example, De Niro's monologues in the various films he's made with Scorsese, and how the edit changes depending on the character. If this is the type of technical deep dive you'd be interested in, then let me know in the comments. The editing marries perfectly with Prieto's cinematography, which was absolutely breathtaking. He was also the cinematographer on Barbie, and these two films really express just how adept he is in tailoring his work to his project, making killers feel embedded in 1920s Oklahoma, whilst Barbie evokes that plastic quality. Of course, this is supported by the production design, but in both cases there's a real visual impact. Finally, I have to mention the score, which is understandably inspired by and inclusive of Native American influence, both diegetic and non-diegetic. This is especially evident in the opening montage, where an electric guitar is mixed with a rattle, representing the white settlers and the Osage respectively. I might be wrong on the instruments being used, but either way, the auditory fusion of cultures really sets the tone for the story, especially as they reoccur throughout the score. Overall, Killers of the Flower Moon is an epic cinematic experience with brilliant central performances. It stands out as an anti-Western that showcases an important part of American history through an unexpected and moving case study. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and switch on notifications so you don't miss future videos, and comment below with your thoughts on the film. For more film content, feel free to follow us on Letterboxd and TikTok, links in the description. Otherwise, this has been Tea Break Film Reviews. My name's Michelle, and I hope you have a great day.